So why can sex be such a difficult area for many of us? Well, when you turn towards your sexuality and you really look at your experience, what you'll find is things like, what do I really want? Or how do I know what I want? Like, just even those questions can be really difficult. And if I do know what I want, how do I ask for it? And if I ask for it and it doesn't get met, what do I do with that? And do I step over myself, or do I have to always effort, or do I give more than I really have to give? Or do I disconnect when actually what I'm really wanting is connection? So there's just such an incredible minefield of emotional tenderness in the realm of sexuality. And also it's been a very difficult place for us to turn towards because there's so much taboo and shame and guilt that's wrapped around our sexuality, and we're not really given permission in this culture to really explore it or question it or learn about sexuality. So when you do turn towards it, what you find is it's actually quite surprising, and it's really in the body. And so what you do is you kind of try to find, if you look for your authentic sexuality or your authentic consent, what you're doing really is you're trying to navigate towards this alignment in your being, an alignment of ease, an alignment of being where you really are. So again, so often we step over ourselves. So what I mean by that is that you might be giving more than you want to give. So you might feel in your body this kind of giving, or kind of holding in your body, or doing, or efforting, or you might feel that you often kind of dissociate, or that you might, really be uncertain about what you're doing and just do things because you think you should. And you can kind of feel that in the body. So when you start to learn to navigate towards, am I in alignment with myself? Am I really present to however I am right now? It makes it really clear when you're not, and you can feel that in the body. So it becomes this really rich terrain of practice and of bringing stuff of your unconscious material into consciousness. So the thing with a sexual practice, and I like to call it a sexual spiritual practice because there are so many dimensions to this, is that if you set it up with mindfulness, and you set it up with safety, and you set it up with really being in your authentic consent, and you slow everything down, and you have a container of what you're doing, then what you allow yourself to do is kind of bite-size your experience and investigate what you do in the body, in the moment, in relationship. And you get to witness it really clearly, and you get these deep embodied insights around what you do. So normally what we do is in meditation practice or in psychotherapy or in yoga is we're looking for that alignment or looking at what we do, but we're doing it individually. So when you get a practice that is in relationship, in the body, in the present moment, with such rich material in relationship, then you've just got so much potential to witness not only what you do and what stops you from doing it, but you get to have a place where you can practice doing it differently. But you need to have the safety and the containment so that your unconscious allows you to do that, so that you can stay online and witness what you do. So in a practice, in a sexuality practice, you can come at it from three main different angles really. There's a spiritual perspective, there's a psychological and psychotherapeutic kind of healing angle, and then you've got a physical dimension or expanding your erotic capacity. So really depending on what you're wanting and where your interest is, but all three give a lot of information and bring into consciousness what is usually unconscious. So from a meditation perspective, what you're doing is you're actually starting to track pleasure as your guide, which is very different to having it as your goal, because you're listening to this alignment and this authenticity and this presence that has a brightness to it. And because pleasure and love is the object of meditation, there's this kind of intrinsic motivation to practice and to see what you do, and a kind of willingness to take responsibility for your part. So, and the other thing too is the concentration and the curiosity, these kind of natural qualities of meditation are just naturally there. So it's incredibly potent and powerful place to practice. And then you can look at it from a psychotherapeutic and psychological perspective, because you're in this terrain of love and you're looking at how you're organized in the body. So you're in the body in the present moment, and you get to witness so clearly what you do when you have a framework to support you to see what you do. And then you can bring into consciousness all these aspects that are usually so hard for us to get to, because they're our emotional memories and they're in our implicit memory and in a part of our brain that we don't have intellectual access to. So we have to witness what we do in the body and in relationship. So it really allows us to get this so much information into awareness. And then because you're slowed down, because you have these containers and these kind of structures and this capacity, you get to practice doing it differently. So you get to expand your experience and you get to go down a different path. So you're not repeating your habit of protection and defense against love. And then you have this physical perspective. So we have a culture that really doesn't really allow us to turn towards our sexuality. There's a lot of shame and taboo that's wrapped around our sexuality. And as a result, we've kind of been given these scripts of what sex sounds like, what it looks like, and even what it feels like. And it's so orgasm focused. So what we need to do is we need to take this kind of goal of orgasm off sexuality, and we start to have a completely new relationship to erotic energy and to our experience and into what we're doing. And when we do that, we start to see really clearly these narrow pathways of pleasure that we have ingrained in these sort of habits in our body. And we get to see how contracted we are around pleasure, how we kind of grasp and cling for the orgasm, and we get to really see how we hold our breath, how we hold our body with these belief systems. And you have the opportunity again to practice doing something differently and to start to relax around it and not have a goal and to listen to what wants to naturally unfold. So what you're doing basically is you're taking this very narrow pathway of our kind of path of least resistance to pleasure, and we're starting to expand our experience, we're starting to expand our capacity, and we're starting to listen and develop different neurological and physiological pathways. And that really changes this kind of dirt track experience to a 4-lane highway of potential pleasure and experience and capacity. So really you're kind of working with all 3 levels, and you can really take it at what angle that you want. But there is such incredible potency in this practice, and there's so much healing. It hasn't really been about, it's such a missing piece in our healing modalities, in our spiritual practices, and it really does require us to kind of step against the grain in a way, because there's so much taboo and shame wrapped around sexuality, and to take responsibility for not only our own sexuality, but for what are we doing? What's really interrupting our capacity to give and receive love? What are the unconscious belief systems that are really limiting us? And to really healing and integrating that, and to taking responsibility for how we inhabit the next moment.